Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Patterson, Ms. Patton, Dr. Patton, Dr. Golden. Last person to sit down always gets a demerit point.
Okay, it was Ann.
It was Ann.
It wasn't
By a
me.
hair. By a hair.
Oh, Janet. It was her fault.
Colleagues, thank you all very much for coming. I call this meeting of the Metrolinx board to order. We're delighted you're all here in such numbers. This is a terrific time for Metrolinx. It feels, I was saying to my colleagues earlier, as good as it gets. We've got a ton of good work in front of us. We've got strong support from our shareholder to do the work. We've got strong financial support to allow us to do the work. And we have a big agenda of important things to accomplish over the next few years. And we're going to accomplish that by putting it all on the shoulders of our distinguished president, CEO, Bruce McQuaig. And I call upon him to tell us where we're going.
Great.
Bruce.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I've got 4 things I want to speak with the board about before we go into the rest of the agenda. The first piece is for our customers on Go Transit. They already know this because we've been making announcements, but this weekend we'll be making some significant service adjustments. We're adding 17 additional trips on the Lakeshore Corridor as part of our expansion of the 30-minute service. And that gives people a lot more choices and opportunities in terms of traveling throughout the region. And we're also going to be launching, again for this summer, this weekend, our seasonal service in Niagara Falls. So first comment is that we're continuing to expand and provide more choices to our customers. Second thing, I'd just like to quickly acknowledge that there have been 4 significant awards that the people of this organization have earned over the last little while. First, with the Union Pearson Express, there were 2 awards from the Global Air Rail Awards in Oslo, Norway, one for Project of the Year and the second for Concept of the Year related to the development of the station at Union Pearson at Pearson International Airport for Union Pearson Express, and the Concept of the Year for the overall concept and the customer experience plan that's been developed for that program. So congratulations to Kathy Haley and her team. The third one I'd like to reference is Go Transit has won the 2014 Canadian Urban Transit Association Corporate Leadership Award for Marketing and Communications. And this is intended to recognize development and implementation of marketing and communication initiatives. And Go was recognized for their work on market segmentation that identified different customer personas that have been applied for our for our employee training, for our marketing campaigns, and for program launches like the Quiet Zone program that was launched so successfully over the past year. And congratulations to Mary Prock and her team. And the fourth one I'd like to reference is the award from the International Parking Institute for the Ajax parking structure, one of our most recent openings of parking infrastructure. It won the award of excellence in the category of best design of a garage with 800 or more stations, and particularly focused on customer-centric design and the efficiency of moving not just cars in and out of the facility, but also how to move passengers from the station to the parking garage. And again, congratulations to Mike Wolchek and the team for the delivery of that project. Also like to acknowledge that, as many of us know, that over the past 24 hours we've had a significant rainfall in the region, and the Don Valley in particular have been subject to funding over the past 18 hours or so. And this impacted our service overnight and into this morning's service with 2 train cancellations on the Richmond Hill corridor. And we haven't been able to provide service this morning to 2 of our stations at Old Comer and Oriole, but we have deployed buses to provide an alternative to our customers. The trains from Richmond Hill that we have been able to keep in service have used a different corridor, so we've rerouted around different tracks. And this has been somewhat of a ongoing issue in the Don Valley in terms of flash flooding. And I guess one thing we should acknowledge and take credit for is through our early warning systems that we're able to avoid situations like we had last summer where we had a train stranded in flooded situations. So our work with the Toronto Region Conservation Authority has meant that we are avoiding those kinds of circumstances. We have strengthened the track bed so that it is more durable and resilient. And we've been doing bank replacement work over the past few months to try to again shore up the corridor along the river. There's no question we have more work to do, and we do have studies underway to look at medium and longer term solutions for flooding in the corridor. And we are working very, very hard, of course, at GO Transit to make sure that service is completely recovered for this afternoon's peak period service. The last thing I want to do is go very quickly through a presentation that's on the screen, and building on the chair's remarks about our opportunity to build on momentum and move forward, really recap where we are in delivering results for our customers and what people can expect to see over the coming months in terms of the delivery of additional projects, and really is to take advantage of this unique opportunity we have with a 10-year, $15 billion program that the province has announced to really accelerate the transformation of the regional transportation system. So this is an image, and one of the pieces that we've talked about with the board is how do we report to the public, and how do we give better information to people out there in terms of how we're moving forward with projects. And this is something that we're now developing on our website, and it's going to be more rich as we get further into the implementation in terms of being able to click on each project and identify where it is in the delivery process. But the idea here is to make sure that our very significant expansion program that's already underway and is going to be growing larger over the next little while is going to be very transparent, accessible to the public across the region, so they can see how we're moving ahead. And I think everybody's heard me refer to the $16 billion committed program we currently have and the about 200 projects that we are delivering on. In terms of progress, what does it look like? Well, there's some images on this slide, and on the top left is the Georgetown South project that will enable more GO service throughout the day, serving residents between downtown Toronto and Bramalea, but also enabling the Union Pearson Express service, which is now in the final year of construction. It involves doubling and tripling track, it involves signals, it involves new stations, it involves road-rail grade separations, rail-to-rail grade separations of two of Canada's busiest rail corridors. Progress also involves the transformation of Union Station, and there's a image of the atrium train shed roof, which is going to be completed this year, and that's part of the overall program for Union Station with the GO York Concourse that will open up in this coming winter, the expanded Union Station subway station, the new underground path connections, and of course the new Union Pearson Express station that's going to be opening up next year as well. Progress also looks like the 30-minute service that was launched last June to such great success with a 30% increase in our off-peak ridership. And progress also looks like the start of deployment of the Presto program on the TTC this fall, expanding from the existing 14 subway stations that are part of the system right now. And of course, progress looks like the launch of the Union Pearson Express in the spring of 2015 on time and on budget. Now, we are on track on a number of our projects, in fact, so many of our projects, but I wanted to highlight a couple in particular. This image is taken from this spring on the spur line that connects Union Pearson Express to Pearson Airport at Terminal 1. Again, this service will be available to the public in the spring of 2015. I could have included pictures of York Viva, where we have the first sections open to customer service last year, or the Mississauga Transit Way, where we also have significant construction underway. Moving forward, as we look ahead for our program, we're not starting from scratch, I think is the overall message, but building on the momentum that's already been established through the program we've had over the last few years. While the government's newest commitment is for 10 years, we're not going to be waiting 10 years for outcomes for our customers. As we look forward to programs like Regional Express Rail, the beauty of it is that we will be offering our customers improved service, more benefits each and every year of that 10-year program. And I can assure our customers that they'll be seeing those benefits as we move forward. Almost ready, Union Pearson Express I've already talked about. And again, this is an image from the Pearson Airport station at Terminal 1, which is nearing completion and actually will be done this summer. The vehicles are being assembled right now in the plant outside of Chicago, and the first coaches will start to arrive in this region in August to begin the testing, the commissioning, and the training process so that we can launch the service next spring. The Weston and Bloor stations are well under construction now, and will be complete by the end of this calendar year, as well as the station at Union Station. This is decades long in its gestation in terms of getting to a new service of a fast, reliable, and frequent link between downtown Toronto and Pearson Airport. I think the core message is it's just around the corner. It will be Canada's first dedicated service of its kind, and we will be joining other financial centres like London and the United Kingdom in having this kind of high-level service that provides, again, another choice, another opportunity for the traveling public. As we previously announced, the trip will take just 25 minutes from Union Station to Pearson Airport, depart every 15 minutes, and our passengers will travel in comfort with Wi-Fi and other services, and will provide quick access to the downtown area. Work has already begun on Regional Express Rail, and clearly this has been a cornerstone of the government's announcements over the past few months. But it's actually been something that we've been working on for some time, and it has its beginnings in the big move and the move towards two-way all-day service, what we've previously called Express Rail on all of our rail corridors. And using our existing corridors, we'll be moving the most people possible at the least cost is really our objective. We want to provide service that's so frequent and fast that it becomes an irresistible temptation, an irresistible reason for people to substitute driving to downtown Toronto or to other locations, with service in both directions throughout the day, in the evening, and on weekends. We're also looking at electrified service that provides for speed, better performance, and lower operating costs. And this picture that you see on the screen is an image from the Stouffville corridor, and this is actually at the Agincourt station, which has been reconstructed over the past couple of years. And the whole idea here is about the integration between local and longer distance travel, and how we can make sure that the kind of services we're providing at GO Transit not only serve the traditional commuter market, but how we can move it to become much more of a local service as well. So our vision for Regional Express Rail includes better fare and service integration between GO Transit and local transit. And again, the outcomes, the benefits that we're going to see are not benefits that are going to take 10 years to get to, but benefits that we're going to start to see each and every year of the 10-year program. Work has also begun on our rapid transit program. This is an image from the Eglinton Crosstown and the tunnel that's underway right now. And the tunnel is scheduled to be completed on time and on budget in 2016. The Crosstown stations, the systems, and the maintenance facility is in procurement right now, and we expect to have a consortia selected by the end of the fiscal year to allow us to move ahead with the delivery of the balance of the project, providing 19 kilometers of fast and reliable rapid transit that will take significant amounts of time out of people's travel to and from work each and every day. And again, our schedule is to deliver this for 2020. Now, we have a presentation later on in the agenda on Presto, and we have lots of imagery and some of the devices that people will start to see on the Presto system that they can see and touch. But right now, we have about 1.3 million customers who have Presto cards, and our customer base in 2013 has grown by about 50,000 customers each and every month. Wave 1 of the TTC deployment begins this fall, and you will see some of the equipment starting to roll out over the coming months. It'll also be deployed on Union Pearson Express so that people who are using that service will not only have the ability to use cash and credit cards and e-ticketing, but also have the Presto service available. Rob Hollis will be speaking later on more about Presto, but we are committed to delivering an effective customer service to the people who rely on the TTC each and every day. Our deployment plan assumes that we will have substantial completion for 2017, and this reflects the complexity of the program. This reflects the amount of work that needs to go into a system as large as the TTC. And we've also added parts to this program, such as the inclusion of new fare gates, which add, again, a new level of customer service to people who will be using the TTC, complexity to the delivery. We've built in more time for customer testing, so that we can make sure that the experience that customers are going to have along each step of the phase of the delivery of Presto is going to be as seamless as possible. Based on the experiences we have had and what we've learned from other jurisdictions, we think this kind of timeline is the right thing to do. And while it takes a little bit more time, I believe that in the end, the customers will benefit from having a more effective and seamless rollout of the program. A key part of the program is also planning for the future, and we've been working with the city and the TTC in York Region on regional relief strategy, and Leslie Wu will be reporting on this later on in the meeting. But we believe that the ultimate strategy will be tabled with this board next spring will be a package of initiatives, and that package of initiatives will include a mix of better fare and service integration, more GO service, including the foundation of the Regional Express Rail program that we're building into the plan right now. And it also will include things like priority bus features in different parts of the city and the region. And of course, it will also include elements of the relief line that have been talked about. We want to get on with the planning of this project so that we can get on with the building of the outcomes for the people who need this service in the region. So there is a plan. We're continuing to drive forward on the implementation of the plan. We're committed to make sure that we're doing that in partnership with all levels of government. At the same time, we need to make sure that we're updating that plan as we move forward to the 10-year anniversary of the big move. And again, Leslie will be reporting on our process to engage the public, to engage municipalities and other stakeholders on affirming and developing the directions for the next iteration of the big move, which will be completed in 2016. And we'll build a new coalition around the region on how we can move forward with the progress that has already been achieved. So our path forward is really clear in my mind. It's about delivering on the projects that are underway. It's about completing the Regional Express Rail program over the next 10 years. And it's working with municipalities and other stakeholders to advance our next wave projects and to develop the plan for the future. We've built momentum over the past 4 years through growing GO Transit with processes like 30-minute service on the Lakeshore Corridor, parking structures, new stations, and bus services. We've built new infrastructure, whether it's tunnels, bridges, track. We've deployed Presto on GO Transit in Ottawa, Mississauga, Brampton, Oakville, Burlington, Hamilton, York, and Durham. And we've proposed the next wave of projects. We've proposed changes to our governance in terms of how we can strengthen our connection to municipalities. And we have a unique opportunity, as I said at the outset, to move forward with a 10-year commitment on how we could advance the transformation of the region's transit and transportation system. And building on our progress and our momentum, I think my message to the board is that we're ready to go as a corporation. Thanks very much.
Great job, Bruce. And to you and your colleagues, thank you for all you have done, but more importantly, thank you for what you're about to do for us. Are there questions to Bruce on that overview? As you know, we have detailed presentations on a number of the items Bruce touched on, but are there other items anybody would like to raise with Bruce at this stage? And you're looking as though you have something in your mind. No?
I think it's a very good presentation. It's great to hear.
Are we okay?
Yep.
Excellent. Bruce, I might just like to take a moment and just say something about say where we are in one thing, and if I could I just want to say we're in a good place, but we got a new minister yesterday, or the day before, and so the minister who helped us get to where we are is no longer a minister, and I just want to note as a board our gratitude to Minister Murray, because I don't think we'd be where we are and with the agenda in front of us and the level of commitment to that agenda without the leadership he showed on behalf of our shareholder in getting us to today. So we work for whoever we're told to work for, but when there is a movement of a minister, I think it's worth noting the accomplishment, and I think Minister Murray, particularly with Regional Express Rail, helped get us to a very good place and have created an opportunity for us on which we'll now execute reporting to our new minister. Bonnie, you want to say something?
My question is just going to be a little bit about going forward. I mean, we're most familiar with the express rail elements that were within the big move, and you've briefed us a number of times as we've been going through this the last couple of years. So now as you look at the new investment into the Regional Express Rail, at some point, Bruce, it would be interesting to be able to say, you know, where were we and what's the opportunity? So whatever those criteria would be you know, is there an impact on bi-level vehicle use? Is there a new impact on peak off-peak? So for me, if I could just get a sense of this is where we were headed, and then in that one area, under a whole bunch of criteria, this is where we might land. I think that could be quite useful for us. Because I've got some elements fairly clear in my mind, but I'm sure there are many that I've missed.
Yeah, absolutely. And on Express Rail in particular, you're going to hear from Leslie and Greg Percy later on about the complexity of the program and the variations that need to be decided upon. And fleet is a significant question that we'll be looking at, how we interact with other users in the rail corridor, freight via, there are going to be a myriad of subsidiary questions, smaller questions, that in of themselves are going to be very meaningful for the outcomes the customers are going to face. So there's just going to be a lot of discussion around those items at this table and at other tables as we move forward. One of the things we want to consider in the context of Regional Express Rail is how do we work with the municipalities as they'll have to adjust their local transit services to work with increased level of service at the GO stations, and how do we get their input to the development of that program?
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Hey, Joseph.
Chair, I'm intrigued by some of the suggestions for transit planning coming from the mayoralty candidates in the city of Toronto. One in particular citing the use of GO lines as part of the solution to the congestion problem downtown. Have you given any thought to this?
You're not asking him how he's going to vote.
No. But have you given any thought to some of these suggestions, and how do they fit into your thinking going forward?
Well, we've been monitoring closely all of the proposals that have been put forward by the various candidates. And our objective is to make sure that we can understand them as much as we can and be ready to engage with the mayor and council that the people of Toronto select at the end of the campaign period. Various candidates' proposals have stronger alignments to different parts of the big move and our plans. But I don't think it's appropriate for me necessarily to comment specifically for or against any particular proposal, but we are looking at them very, very carefully as they're being proposed by the candidates.
Great, thanks.
Marianne?
Bruce, may I ask, how are the mayoral candidates informed on what Metrolinx is doing? Because there's so much work that has been done through the history of Metrolinx coming to certain really informed conclusions, and then you look at the mayoral candidates who take completely different takes, and you wonder is there a way to kind of, do they have to make specific requests, or is there a kind of dissemination of information that can testify to the kind of logic that has led Metrolinx to these decisions that this organization has made?
We have an open offer to all of the candidates, whether mayoralty in the city or other cities or councillors, to sit down and have a conversation for us to convey information. So we're quite happy to have a discussion about what the big move is, what are the priority for projects, what's the foundation, what's the analysis that has gone into those choices, and give that same service to all of the candidates.
Have they?
Some have taken advantage of that, some have not.
I go a step further, additionally extending the offer of that conversation, and we have them with Bruce, with me, with other members of staff, and often with people working with the candidates as opposed to just the candidates themselves working with their staff. But also, they often have questions about how would this work or how would that work, how does it intersect, that we have those conversations, but on condition, we will not report any of that conversation to another candidate. So we have to be neutral, but we have to create a cone of confidentiality in the exchange so that it can be a frank exchange about ideas and the like. So we can have a conversation with one candidate, have a different conversation with a different candidate, and there's no cross-infection of those conversations, so that each of them can rely on us as a source of professional advice, expert advice on the issues in front of them. And I think it works. I think it works well, because
I'd like to think that those candidates have picked up on this offering an opportunity to have a dialogue and to be able to evolve their thinking as they go through the very long campaign that they have. So,
and I think there is more of both formally and informally. I think there's a fair amount of that, and I think it is constructive and positive, and I congratulate them for asking and for inquiring, and we try to be as helpful as we can while respecting under no circumstance can Bruce or I, in our roles, have a preference among the candidates in our institutional capacities. That's for others to decide, not for us. Why don't we go on then to the first presentation, which is very relevant to this, because there's the question that Joe asked earlier, the relationship between Regional Express Rail and at least the proposal of one of the candidates is clearly in the minds of lots of people are writing about it and thinking about it. So Leslie, could you please make this presentation to us on Regional Express Rail, where we are, where we're going?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I'll build on Bruce's overview to remind the board that Express Rail is and has been part of the big move. We have been diligently working through what it means, and as Greg will explain, it's a complex concept, but we're at a point now which is a really exciting point where we're embarking upon delivery, and we are now working through what I would call some of the finer details of what Express Rail will mean for Metrolinx and for GO. We're building on really the work that we did through the electrification study, the Union Station capacity work that we've done, and of course, last June we introduced two-way all day, which is a foundational to regional express rail. When we refer to express rail, we're talking about an average speed that's about 10 to 25% faster than what you're seeing today. The frequency we're planning for and we're looking to deliver is every 15 minutes or less. We anticipate that it will be a mix of electric in some areas and diesel service probably in the outlying areas. We are examining the fact, and we're realizing that we will end up likely with a mix of fleet type, electric multiple units, diesel multiple units, electric and diesel locomotives, because every corridor of the 7 corridors are quite unique and different. We also know that in terms of the type of train sets we'll be looking at, there may be a combination of our current 12-car bi-levels as well as shorter, smaller trains, depending on the level of service and the time of day and the corridor itself in terms of the number of people using the service. Express Rail is not, we're not inventing anything new. This is a model of travel that has existed in many other places. Paris, coincidentally, the acronym for their Express Rail is also RAR. It's pronounced slightly differently. But 5 lines, 600 kilometers, it's totally electrified. The other example I'm going to point to is in Stockholm. There's 4 corridors there. It is also 100% electrified. I think we need to remind ourselves that in our system, we are in a shared corridor system with freight. So that is one of the challenges that we will face in the implementation of our Greater Toronto Hamilton version of RER. The service concept, as I mentioned, is a 15-minute two-way electrified service within the urban areas. It is a major shift for the current GO Transit operating model, and some corridors will run a mix of nonstop express and local train service. That means we'll have a combination of every single stop, and then some where we will run a nonstop service to Union Station. We are, in as much as we have begun on the basis of our work over the last 3 to 4 years, a better understanding of what Express Rail is going to be, we still continue to apply the rigor of our business case analysis to ensure that as we progress this system and this program, that we are giving the board and the people of this region the confidence that the investment and the benefits that are derived from the investment are matching in terms of how we phase in the service. So being able to identify the number of variables that are part of delivering RER and making sound decisions as we progress the efforts. So that examples for that include, the ability to utilize the investment in RER to influence land use along the corridors so that we can generate more and better transit-oriented development with the investment, for example. I'm now going to turn it over to Greg Percy to talk about the actual implementation.
So yes, and we've heard it already this morning, this is both a large and complex project, but I can assure the board that anybody involved in the transit industry globally would love to be part of this and part of making this happen. This is game-changing work, and it's beyond exciting for everybody who will stay involved in this. And just to put some context around this, the Georgetown South program work to do the setup for the Up Express launch this coming spring is a microcosm of this. It is also 15-minute headway service. It is also fully grade separated. So, but take that work, which was 1.5 billion over about 5 years, and multiply it by 10, and you've got RER. It's extremely exciting. It will touch on everything that we do. It will touch on both our infrastructure. It will touch on our equipment, technology. We will be doing a multiple technology shift in equipment design. It therefore impacts on our maintenance facility network. We will need trained crew. We will need to look at our hub, which is Union Station, and make sure that we manage capacity differently and better. The local transit interface has to take a quantum leap forward. Parking is still an enabler to ridership. We have to look at the entire network of 65 stations and say, how much more parking do we need and how do we do that? So it touches on everything that we do. To give you just a little more detail, and we'll be coming back to future board meetings with increasing layers of detail, but we've already touched on the fact that it does touch on all corridors. It is fully electrified. What we're looking at is grade separations. It's a lot of work. There's in the order of potentially $2 billion worth of work just on grade separations, and we'll prioritize that work. We also have to prioritize how many corridors, how much work we could do concurrently. We have to sequence the work, and we have to look at interdependencies of the type of work that we are undertaking. In many cases, and this all starts with defining the level of service, and from there, that defines the infrastructure upgrades, be it to go from 2 tracks to 3 or to 4, depending on which corridor and what exists already. We have to do a number of things that are different. We cannot do things the same way and do this kind of infrastructure build in 10 years. So we will have to look at how do we fast track the EA process? How do we fast track our procurement process? How do we work with the freight industry to reduce the conflicts between freight and commuter and intercity passenger service? All that work has to be done, and it has to be done very quickly. Key success factors, there are many. There's probably this and many, many more. So I won't touch on all those, but we have to make sure that we do things differently. We have to reorganize ourselves to make sure we deliver this effectively and with an accelerated program timeline. There's some areas that we don't have that knowledge in-house. We have a lot of knowledge in-house today, and the learnings that we've taken from the Georgetown South Corridor all can be applied to this, whether it's from property acquisition to sequencing work and how many packages and all that stuff. But what we don't have in-house, a lot of in-house anyway, is electrification skills, so we will be importing those skills. We have to decide structurally, do we have a mix of in-house staff and consultants? The answer lies somewhere in between. Third-party agreements with Hydro One, utilities, and so forth. They can be very time-consuming. We have to do those differently. We've touched on the freight interface. That's really important. Basically, it's doing a lot of what we've done before, but doing it a whole lot faster. So we've touched on acceleration. We did acceleration for the Georgetown South program. We're going to take that and take it a whole lot further, and it's doing a lot of concurrent work. And we've touched on the fact that the sequencing and interdependencies become extremely important, and how we phase those corridors. We'll do all that work. Those conversations have started. The work has already started on this. It started, in fact, a couple years ago under 2A all day. So we've put a lot of this stuff already into play. We're not starting from scratch. We're moving forward now, but we're going to take that and move forward faster. GO Transit has had the benefit of having a homogeneous fleet since 1967. That changes this year as we import the Up Express DMU technology. We're going to import 3 more technologies at least to make RER happen. We will not be parking our fleet of approximately 750 bi-levels between that we have and that we've ordered. So we will integrate that asset ownership into our go-forward plans. So I've touched on a number of these things already as all feeders into how we accelerate the program. So I won't go through those for the sake of brevity. So I'm going to move straight into schedule. I think what you see up there, this is very high level, and we'll come back to the board with much more detail than this as we move forward. And frankly, right now we have a lot more questions than answers, but we're asking all the right questions, and we're well able to answer them. But you're basically reinventing what we look like, so therefore there's a lot of detail to figure out and to make sure that it moves forward in an organized fashion. But what you see on page 13 up on the board is a sense of the functionality and how we've sequenced that. And if you take that and you compress it, we're going to have to move forward on all of these things a whole lot faster. And I think I won't repeat some of the stuff we've already said, but just please keep in mind the theme of doing more faster, and I think that's a fair representation of RER. I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you both very much. Leslie, are you saying there's something missing?
No,
Okay. So can you guys get this done in 10 years?
that's the goal.
Can you get this done in 10 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just the humble planner.
Next agenda item? No, we'll have some discussion, but that's to me is the important point. That the answer is yes. Over to you, Stephen.
So this is a very, very exciting project. What I guess one thing I do here is conflicts with, let's say, freight corridors, and when I hear second lines and tracks and third tracks, and grade separations, I hear expense. So we do have a preliminary sense of what this is going to cost. Is it too soon?
I'm guessing it's going to cost around $15 billion.
15 billion.
Which is what the province vision suggests as well. And that will include a lot of work, background work, enabling work, some of the stuff we've already done. But those numbers are still have to be refined. And that cash flow, we don't know the cash flow at this point. We're still defining the level of service and the infrastructure build.
But we're still, these are the numbers we had thought, I guess, had arrived out of when we initially looked at it, and you're still comfortable that they're going to come in that area?
Yeah, when you include all of the upfront work, the enabling work, there's going to be a lot of costs that come in sideways on that. So it's going to cost a lot of money. But our early estimates were $12 billion, but things happen, and we have to include property acquisitions and so forth. So I think that's a good rough order of magnitude number to look at.
Thank you, Greg.
Bruce, do you want to comment on that number at all? I'm not sure we're using two different numbers in the air here, so I think maybe we should some direction would be helpful. Bruce.
So I think the first message is that we have some work to do over the course of the summer to come up with those business case analysis, which will feed the phasing and staging plan, and that will drive ultimately what the budget ask is going to be over the 10-year period. The work that we've done to date would suggest that the program amounts to about $11 to $12 billion. But a lot of it's going to be driven by the final definition of the service plan, which again will be coming back to the board for a discussion about this is the scope of the program that we want to deliver in the end. But I would suggest that we should be thinking in the order of $11 to $12 billion to complete this program over the 10-year period.
And that's including the full scope of it, some of which is outside the GTHA. That is, that would include the Kitchener-Waterloo components of this?
That would include the Kitchener-Waterloo components, which, as you say, is outside of the GTHA. Right. So, in theory, that the $15 billion that were set aside was for the GTHA, and the potential for outside of the GTHA to come from the other provincial.
The other half of the provincial money, because it's important not to, as the service area expands, like KW, it's important that not be all out of the Toronto GTHA only component of the infrastructure funds. Same if we go to Niagara or whatever the outer boundaries are. The GTHA, as you know, is defined more narrowly than some of our service offering. Rahul, you were next.
Sure. This is really exciting, and it feels like that first big step towards creating that surface subway concept that we've been talking about for so long in the GTH. And so this is really good. The question is assuming for argument's sake it is that $11 to $12 billion over 10 years, that's big. My question is how big? So how does that rank in terms of transit infrastructure projects in, let's say, North America or around the world? How does it in terms of scale?
Huge.
I get the big,
It's
but if you had to
I mean,
rank it.
it's just Jack's here, but we refer to the Eglinton Crosstown as being one of the largest North American investments currently in the books, and other than energy investments in infrastructure. So this is even bigger than that.
So do
So
we get to start saying this is the biggest in North America, the biggest in the world? I mean, what's the
I
order
don't know.
of
I don't know about the world, but it is of that order of magnitude.
Well, I think it'd be helpful to sort of get that sense of where that ranking would be if it actually goes to plan, because it is big, it is bold. It'd be good to get a handle on it.
So it's history making, yes.
Well,
Ian, you were next.
This is an extremely exciting project. I think we all agree with that. You talked about, Greg, 7 operating corridors, and Leslie, you referred to unique and different characteristics. Will you be bringing to this board and the public, and Bruce alluded to it with multiple business case analysis, will you be bringing to this board at a very high level the challenges in each one of these 7 operating corridors, the kind of business case analysis, comparative analysis, so that we can, and I think the public in general can understand what staging of this project really means and what it really looks like? Will we be seeing that in pretty short order?
Yeah,
Leslie?
the answer is yes. I think our first window to the board on this will be in the fall, this fall.
September, but
Yeah.
in September, if I got it right, we're gonna get a
Work plan.
report, which will be a plan as to how we're gonna execute this whole thing over 10 years.
Great.
With a sense of timing, of the priorities, the timing.
Yep.
There'll be work in behind it then to detail it, but the idea is to come back, the deck says an update in September. I don't want an update in September. I'd like to have a plan in September that the board can say yes or no to, or yes with amendments to, and say, yeah, we're putting it, because I'd like to have this plan to be, part of our problem is projects take a long time. This has to be a united, integrated piece of work that's gonna go over 10 years. But we need to make sure it's irreversible once it gets out of the gates, and it has to be completed in its totality. So I think we need a full plan in September, say that's what we're gonna do, and then get going on it. I realize our mandates will have to be renewed and funding will have to keep coming, but we've got a 10-year commitment of funding. Let's execute a 10-year plan. I think, Richard, you were next.
So help me with it, just kind of defining expectation here. The electrification piece, do we have to do that piece before we can add additional, potentially, say, DMU kinds of services or little shorter trains and off-peaks?
No, the answer is no. I mean, Up Express is DMUs, and we'll be introducing that early spring. So you don't need the electrification to introduce something like a DMU. And as we mentioned, it's a mix.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to phase in and begin sooner rather than waiting to electrify everything before we can start.
Okay, that's great, thanks.
Could you just update us then, Leslie, supplementary to that, on the environmental assessments? I'm gonna say what I think's true, and then you correct me. I believe we did the EA for the electrification of Up Express, and we now have approval as of a week or so ago on that.
Correct.
That Hydro One does not yet have approval for the transformers to support that.
Correct.
But are close.
Yes.
We have not done environmental assessment for any of the other corridors,
Correct.
or even the Georgetown corridor beyond the airport. Are you planning to do that at the front end of this whole project? Or do you do it corridor by corridor once you've sorted out the prioritization of it? Talk to me about an EA. Is it one huge EA for the whole thing, or is it EA by corridor?
That's what we are trying to determine right now. That's what the work plan will decide, because there are pros and cons to doing either, and part of it is linked to our, what's the most expeditious way. So I don't know the answer at this point, but we will bring that answer forward in September.
That is one of our work streams now. We
it's
have a
on the-
number
yeah.
of EAs underway.
Right.
Some will require amendment, some other forms, all of which need to move faster. So that's a conversation that our EA team is building now.
So we don't want the EAs for electrification to slow down the agenda, but we want to do them as fast as we can.
Yes.
So we can go right to electrification wherever possible.
And wherever we can combine things together, we will do that.
We're already doing EA,
yeah.
and of course, I got it,
Yeah.
I got it. KW's fully in this deal?
The connection, the corridor?
No, is KW part of Express Rail in our 10-year plan? Or is KW increased service over the status quo, but not necessarily the 30-minute service everywhere?
So we are, as Greg mentioned, our team is developing a much more detailed service plan, which will be able to answer that question in much finer grain. We're looking at a range of options to understand, because obviously we want to link the level of service that we envision with where the growth is happening and at what rate the growth is happening. So I hope to have a better answer to the exact level of service for something like Kitchener-Waterloo, but it is one of our corridors that we service. It's part of the RER 7 corridor program, so yes.
Ann?
The business case analysis, Leslie, are these being done in-house? Are you hiring someone to do them? One of the recommendations of the transit panel was to ensure that the business case analyses were using the new and improved
Yes.
Way of doing them. And in fact, your own investment plan had specified a need to improve in this area.
So we're utilizing a combination of our internal expertise and external expertise. We have on the market requests for consulting services it's been broadly published, and so that will be, between now and September, we'll begin to have done that. And we have begun to develop under Rob Siddle's leadership a new and advanced framework for the business case development.
And are you thinking of doing sort of several plans for the different lines, or are you?
Yes, we're
Several analyses, because each line will have different ridership and different.
And the business case is linked to the service plan. So while we're developing the service plan, that is informing the business case analysis.
But will there be a BCA for each corridor?
Yes.
In the context of an assumption that the whole network's being done? Is that how you do it?
Yeah, so it'll be both individual. We also try to generate and understand the benefits to not only the GO system, but the whole system, meaning the whole transportation network. That's the challenge, but that is what the goal is, yeah.
Prioritization, how are you going to decide as you develop your work plan? The plan's going to come back to us. I assume it's going to say, in year 2 we do this corridor, in year 4 we do this one, in year 6 we do this. What's going to dictate the prioritization within the overall project from where we are today to 10 years from now, having all 7 corridors electrified and with 30-minute service?
Yes.
Or
So
at least 30-minute service.
that's a good segue question from the question about the business case, because the business case information is an input to our existing prioritization framework. We will look not in the prioritization not only to the RER, onto itself by corridor, but we also have our next wave priority projects. So we need to look at those in a full set, and the intent is to come back to the board in the fall as well with a report and an update on our prioritization.
Rob, some of the things that we'll input into that decision, for example, we don't own all the corridors. This is actually proving the purchase of corridors to being very visionary on this board's behalf and the province's behalf. But where we don't own the full end-to-end corridor, that will be more challenging. That means you need to get the railways on side. That will slow the process as
So that might push the priority of those corridors down a bit over
Correct.
the ones where we have full control.
Yes.
Correct. And the Lakeshore line already has the track infrastructure in the west, and we've already well into the EA to add track on the east. That would enable that to move forward a little faster as well, where we own majority.
So it's not just the business case analysis, it's
No,
also the
that's right.
practicality, if you will.
Yeah.
to use
If you remember the prioritization framework, we have a filter that's called deliverability, which is constructability, willing partners, all those kind of screens. So,
Got it.
yeah.
Got it. On vehicles, are you assuming this all has to be done with FRA compliant vehicles, or are you assuming we'll go to Transport Canada and get relief and allow us to use a lighter vehicle?
That's a great question. That's one of the big decision points. At this point, to make that decision today, they would have to be FRA compliant, so North American compliant, and therefore you could not import European technology. Yet again, in the United States, and to be mimicked by the Canadian regulators, they are again seriously discussing moving forward on changing those specs. As yet, they have not, and we've been there 5 years ago when we made the decision on the DMU technology for Up Express. Again, they were on the verge of changing, and they did not. So at some point, we won't be able to wait, and we'll have to make that decision, and then should in the future change, we'll adjust then. But at this point, they have not made that change, so we would have to go North American spec. If we're able to do something on the freight, commuter, passenger sharing of corridors, that could open the door to changing the spec. Because as soon as you have time separation or you have dedicated right-of-way, opens the door to a change in equipment spec.
I noticed, I think yesterday, day before, Minister Raitt in Ottawa announced a review of a number of transportation areas, one of which I thought was urban transportation, that she made an announcement that she's commissioning a review of a number of areas. Is that a forum within which we could press the case for relief, given the province's intention to invest $10 billion or so in this expansion, and given her knowledge of this area?
There is a potential there for sure, and I do think that we need to bring the federal government into this, and that is one way to do that. Transport Canada has a high concern in the post-Lac-Mégantic world to take a really close look at the movement of dangerous goods in urban Canada. And that could very well play into our desire to manage that interface between freight and commuter. So there is a merging of
so there might be a chance to push freight out of some of the corridors?
To take a look at that conflict, yeah, and do something better.
Sounds like we better put aside a few hours in September to review this plan. That's good. It's really good. So, no summer holidays for your team. Once you give the wrap-up comment on this item.
Absolutely, and one of our objectives was to try to communicate the richness and the complexity to deliver on this program, and I think success is achieved. But the other part I'd like to go back to is the opportunity that we have here. The opportunity, I think, that only comes very infrequently to actually have a 10-year program to transform such a big part of the transportation network in the region. And going back to that fast, frequent, all-day, two-way express and local service that connects economic opportunity, quality of life, environment across this region. So if there's one comment after going through all the complexity of this is, yes, but also we have to really remember the opportunity we have to transform the region through this initiative.
Bruce, is the Yonge Streets, is the Spadina subway extension below ground or above ground up at Shepherd?
Below.
It'll be below ground. Because I was just thinking to the earlier discussion we had, and we were approving building the joint station at Shepherd and the Spadina subway extension, where you've got the Spadina subways going through that station. Our Barrie GO train goes through the same station. We talk about surface subways. We're going to have a above ground subway and a below ground subway intersecting there. It kind of brings to life the image, right, of what Toronto will be like 10 years out with that subway completed, our work completed, and the two running over each other, crossing over each other, people jumping off one, getting on the other, subject to fair integration being well done, Leslie. That's an exciting image.
Yeah. Well, and not only but not only what's happening there, but what will happen around in the neighborhoods.
That's just an example, right, of all these points of intersection.
Yes.
But that's a new subway, and it's a new express rail surface subway intersecting and opening up opportunities in every direction. Anything else on this item?
Oh, that'll change.
We're way behind time, but it's worth it because this is job one for all of us. Greg, good luck in delivering all this, okay? I'm sorry about your summer holiday. Put aside.
What summer holiday?
The next item is Leslie Wu on the Young Relief Network study that you presented, I think, at the last meeting to us, and now you're doing it again.
Yes.
And you're making decent progress.
I'd just like to introduce Ian Druce, who's the principal with Steer Davies Gleave, who is the consulting firm working with us on this study.
So say the name again.
Ian Druce.
Ian Druce?
Yes.
And can you
From Steer Davies Gleave, yes.
Can you give us a minute on your background, Ian?
Yeah, happy to. Transport planner by training, and I manage Steer Davies Gleaves Canadian practice with offices in Vancouver and Toronto. So we've done quite a lot of work with Metrolinx over the years. Developed the original business case template for you in 2008, and we've done a number of projects with both Leslie's team and the investment strategy team.
Great, welcome.
So, thank you. And correct, you're correct, Mr. Chair. We were before the board in February on this item, and I would just wanted to give a bit of an update because there's been some good progress since last we were here. At this point, I also would like to welcome Henry Wachinski. I think he's still here. He's the co-chair of our stakeholder group for this project and this study. Henry's right here.
Yes, thanks, Henry.
And Henry has offered countless volunteer hours in support of this effort.
Henry's a really good lawyer, too.
I don't see that part of him at this stage.
He's really good. He's really good.
A reminder that, and I won't spend too much time on this because it's background really, that this study is, as we've always referred to it, the first time to take a very comprehensive review at how we address the issue of congestion in the Yonge Subway Corridor. And we are working very closely with the City of Toronto and York Region to address this. The problem we're trying to identify is how an investment in both infrastructure, policy, and our existing systems can mitigate the degree of congestion that is currently being experienced in the Yonge Corridor and what we know in the future. Through the study, we've identified 6 goals by which we will measure the solutions that are going to come forward. They're in the categories of transportation, financial, environment, economic development, community benefits, and deliverability. Just very quickly to locate you, we are right now in where the red arrow points out, evaluating the long list of projects that we received. We have just come through an extensive consultation that was held in April. I'm just going to go here. And I'm on slide 8. Really, we went out to the public and asked about this for their ideas. There was a lot of support on a bunch of fronts. Particularly, there's a huge anxiety that we get to the solution quickly. I know the board shares that anxiety. People are very encouraged that the city, the TTC, and York Region are working with Metrolinx in an integrated and coordinated way. There's a huge appreciation for taking this comprehensive and network-wide approach. And there's a lot of interest in the identification of the short and medium-term solutions. So while there's a recognition that the bigger, longer-term projects and initiatives are necessary, there's also a huge anxiety that we get going sooner. There was a lot of questions folks wanted to understand better the relationship between what we are doing and what the city is doing in terms of their project assessment work. And I hope that we were able to clarify that for most people through that process. We've made a minor, what I call tweaking of the methodology, insofar as I think we had anticipated a more linear approach to shortlisting and coming up with the solutions. We've since devised what I would call it's a bit more complex, but it's much more multi-pronged in that we are sorting from the long list of ideas what we consider higher performing ideas, and then developing scenarios that integrate both the higher performer ideas as well as the policy pieces. And this, I think, will speed up the analysis without compromising the robustness with which we undertake it. A quick reminder, this is the little diagram that shows how we move through from the many different ideas through to a screening to the higher performers, the scenarios that we're about to develop, and those best ideas, the evaluation, and ultimately a preferred solution to recommend to the board. And we are right here. There are a number of ideas that at this point we have screened out, and so there are the category 3. Category 1 is, all that is good goes forward. Category 2 is, yes, it's good, but actually this study is not the context in which it would be examined, and there are other areas of analytics, including the legislative review of our plan. And then there's a category 3. This is the not feasible, and we've come to this conclusion in concert with our partners about this. And I'm just going to quickly jump to that list. In the not feasible and not progressing.
These are things that are now out of the game.
Out of the game.
By agreement of TTC, York
and ourselves.
City of Toronto and ourselves.
And our technical team, yes.
So unless the board speaks now.
Yes.
To complain about something being dropped, these are gone.
So, yes, correct. And I will go through them just explicitly. So there was a suggestion.
So speak now or hold your peace on all of these.
Yeah. So the very first one is the suggestion that we build a new parallel line below the existing Yonge subway line between Bay and Union, from Bay Station rather, that we modify the Yonge subway, the existing Yonge subway to widen the subway tunnel for double and quadruple tracking, that we create a bypass track at every subway station, that we being, it would be likely the TTC, that we create the idea of non-stop or limited stop service along the Yonge subway, and then the idea of running 12 or 18 car trains within the existing subway system with sequential docking or running only to selected destinations. All of these would require massive alteration of the existing infrastructure in the Yonge subway. So either the stations themselves and so forth. And so from a constructability, from an operational standpoint and a deliverability in terms of the check marks, we have screened these specifically out. Yes?
So just, let's say the new subway line below existing, that's not, you can't construct that, or is it just too expensive?
So two things, and I'll get Ian to add if there's more. The subway needs to continue to operate. The order of magnitude of doing something like that relative to some of the other ideas that came forward, the cost alone, the time it would take, and that's on the deliverability part, we thought, and we've considered in the discussion and the review, really not meeting the goals and objectives that we set for what we want to achieve. Is there any more I need to add? No.
Just a dollar amount ultimately?
Well, the dollar, plus you want to continue to move all the thousands and millions of people on the subway. And if you're going to spend money, is this the best way to spend your money? Probably, I would not recommend it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, next slide.
Yes, sorry.
Those are dead.
What we have done... Dead. What we have done now is the remaining ideas that have moved forward, we have grouped them into 6 groupings. The 6 groupings, and they're in the appendix of the deck, they're elaborated, but they are those ideas that are more in the policy area around increased integration between TTC and GO services. The second grouping is around revised GO operations, including new stations, and this dovetails well with the RER initiative, because we are going to be looking at new stations in that exercise. There are a number of relief line options, including the options that the City of Toronto is currently undertaking in its study. So those are very specific. We did receive from the consultation some ideas outside of the scope of what the city is looking, so we are going to include those in our current screening and evaluation. There were a number of ideas that were presented over and above what we already have on GO Rail. There were a number of ideas around the Richmond Hill corridor and the use of now some what I would call defunct rail corridors. The Leaside Spur, for example, is currently part of our recreational trail system, and there was a suggestion that we might want to consider that. So we haven't screened it out at this stage, but I would put it in the category of difficult. And then there were a number of ideas around bus lanes, BRT within the city, modifying the type of bus service that service the network in itself. So those are the 6 groupings. Now, when we do the analysis, we are going to compare the scenarios and the combinations against a base case. So I want to explain to you what the base case will include. So the base case will include our existing policy regime, the existing official plan land uses, all the rapid transit projects currently under construction, any currently committed and funded projects, and in addition to all of that, our next wave priority projects and the regional express rail. So that's the base case. Within that, we will do sensitivity analysis on number of scenarios around things like land use. We might tease out some of the next wave projects. With, does it impact in or out? So, for example, obviously Hamilton LRT has minimum impact on the Yonge subway, so we would screen that out. I'm going to skip over this because I think this is a repeat of what I've said before, which is the importance of policy to this. And also to remind people that, of course, we're not starting from scratch. There is a lot of work that's currently underway already. In terms of the short-term opportunities, we have come back to the board with a number that we think we want to pursue more aggressively because they have the potential to deliver results sooner rather than later. So there are some relative to the GO network itself, a number of modifications that were in discussion with TTC on the bus services into downtown, the feeder bus services. And then, of course, layering on to the work we're doing in fare and service integration, there are the quick wins that have been identified in the pilots in that program will offer some degree of relief in the short term. We are embarking on an online engagement between now and the fall, and we will be doing our broader public sessions towards the end of the year. And that's this slide. So we will have 2 public meetings, one in November and then in the spring. And then we will be back to you with our final report. We'll have our draft shortlist scenarios in December and our final report in the spring.
Great job. Ian, you want to add anything?
No, that's great, thanks.
You took most of your best ideas and...
Yeah.
I know the feeling. Questions to Leslie. Let me ask you one, Leslie, just to kick us off. Why do you not include HOV or HOT lanes on the DVP as one of the options that would be considered, or did I miss it that it is one?
It is there. It's in the Group 6, which is under bus. It's generically described as bus lanes. But that would be in that category.
It could be cars, not just buses.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes. Sorry, I made the wrong answer to your question.
I saw the bus reference and...
Yeah, yeah. So the
Is it possible to expand the DVP to add another lane on each direction to have it as an HOV, HOT lane?
Well, we currently have a dedicated lane for the GO buses.
Sort of.
Yeah, but
Yes.
we don't. It's not continuous.
No,
so yes, we could expand that. And as in some HOV lanes in other parts of the GTHA, they carry both public transit
Right.
and
But the HOV
and
lane on 404, just north of
Yes.
401, is a terrific. Makes it like a real difference to people with multiple occupants.
Yes.
And it's always wondered why, since getting people down is one of the issues, why you wouldn't have one coming all the way south as well. That's not out of scope. That's not in
No,
your dead
in
category.
fact, I'll make sure that goes through the screening process.
Janet.
And if it is going to go through the screening process, though, but it goes forward as an adding capacity, not taking away land.
Ian?
Point of clarification, in your overview, you talked about the regional relief strategy, and then in the same sentence, you said coordinated planning is undertaken by Metrolinx, TTC, and City of Toronto, New York region. I can understand that from a Yonge Street relief issue. Could you explain the difference between the regional relief strategy, which I'm assuming includes Mississauga and other jurisdictions, and assumes relief for transit users and also for road users? It's not clear in your overview that there is a distinction there. Could you clarify that for us?
This study focuses on relief for the Yonge subway corridor. And so we look at how, what are the different measures to address that specifically. In terms of
Mississauga is not part of it.
No, they wouldn't be.
it's not part of it.
She talks about the regional one, and I just wanted to clarify what that meant.
Well, I think what we're trying to understand is the benefits to there. So there's the benefits of creating relief on the Yonge subway that's immediate.
I understand.
But we know that when we do that, it actually has a domino impact in terms of relief in other parts of the network. So the center of gravity for this study is the Yonge subway.
Correct.
When we go to do the legislative review, what we'll be looking at is congestion relief throughout the whole region. So its scope will be much larger, but this study will be an input to that. Yeah,
That's not clear.
Yeah.
So Leslie, I tried this on Bruce last night and I couldn't get my head around this correctly, so let me try it again. When we started this project, we did not have the commitment to Regional Express Rail. Come forward 4 months, we've now, as your past presentation made clear, that's now a given, okay? That we are going to have express rail service running through, and it is clearly going to have an impact on relief of the Yonge Street subway. The details is that are to be worked out as to how much relief, but in the 10-year time period ahead, there's going to be what I consider a game-changing development, and it doesn't seem to have budged your study much, and I would have thought it's a major change in the kind of conditions within which you're having to optimize rather than an incidental detail. It is mentioned, but it's kind of down at the end of 6 other items. To me, it's sort of a big piece as we think about it, and there's been broad embrace of it. And it seems to me where the debate has moved to is, do we also need a relief line subway if we have the regional express? That seems to be the issue that's in play. And so, and the question earlier from Marianne about mayoralty candidates, they're kind of debating that. And I don't want to debate their positions because that's not our job. But it does seem to me it's immediately, once you take as a given regional express rail, it raises the question: is the subway still necessary? And if so, where does it go and what's its sequencing, et cetera? How soon will we, Metrolinx, have a point of view on that question of, is some, I'll call it east side, northeast directed subway necessary, given it's now taken as given we're going to have regional express? When will we develop a view? When will you have a recommendation to the board on that? Recognizing city council might have a different view, or mayoralty candidates might have. When will we have a point of view about a BCA for that, given regional express is in place?
So let me answer the question in this way.
And you can say the question's not the right question.
Well, first of all, I'm not going to say that, but I think first of all, to remind everyone that express rail as a concept has always been part of the big move. So in terms of what we would have looked at, and in fact, a number of the ideas that came forward were either components of or parts of RER. The big difference, I would say, between February and now would be the fact of the commitment to the time period within which it would be delivered. So when we go through the analysis under the deliverability section, the screening about when it will be in place, RER that is, will impact the evaluation relative to the quote-unquote relief line options. That is the subway, the east-west subway options. So that's a little bit of context. To answer your question of when will we know, I think you'll have a glimpse of that in December when we come forward with the short list of scenarios, because it will begin to indicate the degree and when the relief line will be needed. So it's not a matter of we don't need a subway, it's when. Because if you've got the RER in 10 years versus 15 or 20 years, how you roll out the scenarios will differ.
It isn't a question of whether we need a relief line, it's only a question of when.
When.
So you already know the answer is...
Well, we are pretty sure, so this is why we're doing the analysis. We're pretty sure we will eventually need one. The question is, with RER, what is its capacity to address relief in the subway, which we would have done whether we were having it 10 years or 15 years. Now we know there's a commitment to 10 years, so that changes, we have a bit more certainty on that math than we did before. And so when we come in December, I'll be able to speak a bit more to it, but the more crisp answer to your question is when the study is done in the spring, we'll have a more, what I call, concrete answer that I would feel confident to stand behind.
So as the debate rages this fall,
yes,
if Bruce is at a public forum,
yes,
and he's nonpartisan and has no preferences among mayoralty candidates, which I think has to be, both those things have to be true, and he's pressed on this question,
yes,
his answer would be, according to you, yes, we do need a relief subway line to the northeast, The exact location to be determined, but more importantly, the timing of it to be determined, and we can't determine that till early spring.
Yep.
When we'll have completed this study, which we're doing jointly with the TTC and the city and York Region.
And a reminder, yes, the answer is
That would-
yes.
is that- is that-
Yes,
is that-
and the
is that the right
reminder
answer?
that the relief line, which was then in 2008 called the Downtown Core Line, is also part of the big move. So it's, these
I
are
know, I know, I
projects
know.
that we know we need. As we implement the plan, it's about the phasing, the sequencing, and which comes first, and all those
And in the
challenging
big move,
problems.
the relief line was years 15 to 25.
Yes,
We as a board moved it forward to
Yes.
0 to 15.
yes.
You're saying now we know the timing of RER, it's possible it'll slip back into the 15 to 25 as opposed to being in the 0 to 15. I think
I
that's-
don't know the answer to that. I will know the answer to that question. I don't know the answer now.
Okay, so we're a little on this, we just have to say,
This is why we do this work.
Right, no,
I think,
I understand.
because I think there are lots of myths about what is or isn't, and this is the first time anyone has taken such a comprehensive view to this
and
question.
then when I listen to Mr. Byford, the head of TTC, and I say it very respectfully because he's a wonderful partner and a wonderful person, leader, he seems to say it is his top priority. Does that mean that he has a point of view on timing that is being tested through this process? Or when he says his top priority, is he agnostic on timing of the landing of that priority?
So I don't know what his thinking is, but in the absence of nothing else being done, it's a fair assessment of Mr. Byford to say we need something soon because the congestion is real. So there's a fire burning and we need to address it. And so I think what we're trying to identify is what are the things we can do immediately, in the medium term and in the long term, and in a rational, logical way. That's not just one project.
Ian?
Surely there's some evidence, though, that we could put out in the public that helps with this conversation about meeting early relief issues to congestion. And I think it would be our goal to say, let's not take a position relative to any political person, but there is some information that we have, there is some data, there is some studies underway that we could make part of the conversation to indicate that we're addressing early relief, whether it's the relief of the Bloor Danforth or the Young or whatever it is, and put that out there for conversation.
That's why I'm asking these questions. I personally would prefer it if we could be part of the conversation through the fall without ever taking a position vis-a-vis candidates who are going to be measured on many things, and it's not our business to do that, but it does seem to me it's a topic of genuine public concern. We're looked to for expert advice from a regional perspective, and it'd be nice if it were possible for us to get something in the public realm.
So,
Janet?
So I think what, Leslie, I heard you confirm though, because I think the crisper and shorter the message is, I think the better, because I would say that when people talk about downtown relief line, what they've been getting is, and again, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but what they've been getting is, oh, well, there's lots of options we have to look at, you know, blah, 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 right? So all people hear is fuzz. What Rob is saying is, yes, there will be a downtown relief line. We're looking at when.
But when's a big window, though?
Well, no, I
think
understand that. No, I understand that. But
zero to infinity.
0 to 30.
Oh, sure it is, and I understand that. But at least it gives you more definity, or more a more definite statement than, you know, we're exploring all these options and maybe yes, you know, like I mean, there's been a lot of fuzz I think in terms of our answers. So if we're saying yes, a downtown relief subway line, the timing to be determined. I mean, that's pretty clear, I think, or helpful. I would argue.
Anybody else want to contribute on this before we move on? We're only 40 minutes behind on the agenda. It's all your fault, Ann.
I agree with what's being said about the need to have, and I think you're dead on, that the public does not get why we're discussing various versions of downtown relief and what it means, and I think we are the ones to have to provide clarity.
So maybe that you've got to get out there, Leslie, and give a speech or two come September, early September, saying this is where the analysis is at, this is what we're doing, this is where the analysis is at, these are the relevant questions.
Yes, sure. If that's what the board would like. I serve at the pleasure.
Oh, we'll talk about it.
I'm wondering if you've been immersed in this for some time. You must have a point of view. Do you suspect that if the RER goes ahead, that you're going to need this downtown relief subway as originally envisaged by TTC?
I think my answer before is we believe that we do need one. It's just a matter of when. Like, as RER comes into play, at what point of the sequencing is it necessary?
But you're literally imagining it could be 10 years from now it's needed, or 5 years from now, 15 years from now, 25 years from now, or 35 years from now. The way you're talking,
Yeah, and
you're
it's
not giving.
fair-
I don't want
yeah.
anybody in this room.
No, I don't want
to go away thinking
No, you don't.
it's years 6 versus 7.
Because the information I was given by people who are knowledgeable about transit, they are on the side saying they don't think it will be needed. They think that this downtown relief line will
Some information out there.
So that's the question we're trying to answer. And now, and as we define RER, which is a big piece now and big news piece, we'll have a bit more clarity on that.
Marianne?
Excellent presentation, Leslie. My question really relates to something that's sort of fundamental about the diagram, which is that everything ends up at Union Station, which is kind of a terrifying proposition, but it predates lots of us. I had thought that the relief line actually did not only propose relief to the Young Line, but actually diffuse some of that Union destination. And I kind of follow the mapping, and it's not the London Underground, you know, it's not, you don't have the ability to make lots of transfers and changes to get to where you're going. It all kind of funnels into Union Station. And so these 7 corridors just end up there, and the pressure feels, unbelievable, especially as we see population. So what's the diffusing strategy? This is kind of a high-level question, but how do you see that? You know, what diffuses that?
So this study has focused on the Young Subway. When we begin the legislative review, that's going to be one of the bigger questions, Union Station. That being said, I believe that the efforts we make here and that we recommend for implementation through this study will have an impact on relieving congestion at Union as well. That coupled with numerous other things that are yet to be sort of rolled out.
So that seems to be a very big and an important driver in my mind, that this is the downtown relief line is the only thing that we talk about that does some of that, I think.
So Leslie, I think you should come back in September.
That was my plan.
We
were planning to come back.
No,
You're not rid of me
I think
yet.
when you come back, you should let us know what you think, if anything, we can say about this issue.
Yes.
Because it's going to be front and center in Toronto, and this dialogue doesn't speak to it. We're just trying to get it framed what the question is. Certainly, I personally don't have a view on what the right answer is, and I think to the extent you can give us an indication of how you're thinking with York Region, with the city, with the TTC, in partnership, how it's evolving in September would be more valuable than only hearing about it in December.
Sure.
If it's possible. I don't want to push you to premature conclusions, but given you're working in this partnership, I think the public would expect TTC, Metrolinx, York, to city have a point of view, to the extent they can have a point of view. Wouldn't it be helpful and informative to the public debate?
Certainly. On the basis of all our evidence, I would be happy to do that.
That'd be great. And to the extent there are still very open questions,
Yes.
having the public understand why those questions are open and what needs to be done in order to close those questions, that's equally valuable, right? So that it's a non-obvious what the right answer is. That's also good. And if you can get from somewhere between 0 and infinity and begin to narrow the timelines, that'd be good too. So no one else has anything else? Thank you very much. Really good job. That brings us to
We're not doing.
Leslie, you're going to get a very short innings on Regional Transportation Plan legislative review when it's your turn. We have Robert Hollis first, though.
Okay, for but I'll just sit here while we can program.
Okay, but Leslie, think about how you can do a 2-minute presentation of your item 18.
The shorter it is, the more battery.
Robert.
Good morning, Chair.
Presto TTC deployment update.
Yes. Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Pleased to be here to talk about the work on TTC and Presto. As Bruce mentioned earlier on, TTC, as the 3rd largest transit agency in North America, is going to be a large, complex undertaking. And as such, we view that with our learnings that we should break the project down into phases so that we can manage the quality and the rollout to be effective to all of our customers. So Wave 1 was specifically designed to work with the TTC with the arrival of their new streetcar fleet so that they would be enabled around the time that they were launching in Toronto. And as well, we needed to look at the TTC, the unique needs they have for equipment and fare structures that have to be programmed into the system. So we will be adding 12 additional subway stations to the 14 that are currently enabled with Presto. And we will also be upgrading those 14 stations that exist today with new gear. TTC and Presto continue to work together for subsequent phases of the rollout so that we can do bite-sized chunks and make this an effective rollout across the region. In terms of scope, given that this is a multi-year development across all of the vehicles and subway stations, Presto, legacy fare media, and Presto have to coexist for a long period of time. And this is similar to other jurisdictions around the world where you're having to move off a legacy fare media onto new fare media. And in particular, with TTC, we're moving from gravity fare boxes to a world-class electronic fare system. So we have a lot of additional work to do around infrastructure such as communications and power. So there's a lot of civil works that have to be done as well as the works for Presto. So last February, Presto and TTC agreed to introduce a number of new modern fare gates, which we'll talk about a little later. And again, planning is underway to determine which of those 26 stations in Wave 1 are able to accommodate these new larger fare gates into their environment. The Spadina streetcar line and connecting subway stations will be the first to launch Presto, followed by Bathurst, Harbourfront, and Dundas as new streetcars arrive from the manufacturer. So here's a map. It's very difficult to see, but it basically illustrates where the four lines are. But on the side of that diagram, here they are. On the side of that diagram as an illustration of some of the new equipment, and you can see that in the room later on. But on the TTC, there'll be some new devices, particularly on streetcars, where we have this multifunction device that will enable us to take a myriad of fare types, tokens, cash, credit card, as well as to be able to get a Presto transfer. So we have to work very closely with TTC and the manufacturers to customize these devices to be able to meet the needs of TTC and their customers. Also, the more traditional Presto readers will be deployed on the streetcar doors, where all of the doors in a proof of payment system will be open at each station, and customers will be able to tap on as they enter the vehicle. The readers for those doors are very similar to the readers we use in Ottawa, which are now working at 99.95% availability, so they're very highly tested units. Also, later on, there'll be what we call self-service reload machines in subway stations, so customers can tap those devices to inquire on their card and also to load value and check their balances. I didn't realize this was a multi-function slide. So here is a picture of one of the new fare gates. We did attempt to contemplate bringing one of those fare gates into this room, but they're very large and heavy, and we weren't able to accommodate bringing it in from our lab. But we're very excited to work with the TTC to be able to introduce these fare gates into selected stations in the TTC for Wave 1. And these are fare gates that many folks you would have seen in travels around the world. They have a fully integrated Presto reader, and they help to speed up passenger entry into the subway stations. Because of the introduction of the new fare gates, as we decided in February, we're working with the TTC to rethink the civil works plans for Wave 1 in the ability to actually what we call surgically insert these into some of the existing stations, while later on we will revamp all of the fare gates in the stations. For Wave 1, we're seeing where these will fit and where they can be accommodated at first count. We also want to make sure that these new fare gates live up to our stringent specifications and quality assurance programs. As well as devices, there are new functions to be rolled out progressively in phases for Wave 1. In Wave 1, you'll be able to pay seniors, child, or student fares on all the devices, including the legacy 14 readers in the existing subway stations. And as previously noted, there are a number of new devices coming starting in the fall that will make it easier and more flexible for people to pay fares, load cards, perform card inquiry, and secure a transfer for proof of payment. This again is for that interoperability we require between the Presto-enabled vehicles and stations and the legacy vehicles and stations throughout the transition period. As alluded to earlier from the Communications Subcommittee, communications planning is a real challenge because we are going to be working in mixed mode for some time. We have this need to produce a transfer to move on to legacy fare media as well. And we want to make sure that customers are phased in as we deploy each of these lines across the downtown. So we're working very closely with the TTC on an intensive communication program to be able to convey at the right time the right knowledge that customers will need to actually use the system. We will then start to announce to the public as we get close to the fall launch, just in time so that, and through various communication channels, so that customers can be aware of what's happening. And we'll also have the ability for customers to sign up to the site to get real-time information. So our customer experience goals are, in addition to a timely and concise messaging out to our customers, we also, Presto will be providing ambassadors at launch points to help with customer information and helping with some of the Presto products to ensure that the introduction goes smoothly. Our goal throughout is to ensure that Presto remains easy and convenient to use throughout the multi-phase deployment. So for next steps, we continue to work hand in hand with the TTC on finalizing the communications and timing, planning the intricate details for installation of equipment in new streetcars and connecting subway stations to ready for the November launch, continued planning and execution to insert those modern fare gates into certain stations that can accommodate the footprint, and our ongoing planning and work with the TTC on the upcoming phases to run us through to the end of full deployment. So after the board meeting, I would like to invite everyone to visit our showcase at the back. There you will see what is coming, not only to TTC, but as well up Express next April. We are heavily now into device and software testing and have on display some of the devices as well as pictures of those devices that we are unable to move from our labs into this location. We hope that you enjoy the showcase and it provides you with a glimpse at what is about to come in a few short months. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. Questions to Robert? Appreciate the update. I'm sorry we don't have time for a discussion.
Okay.
There is the equipment at the back if people would like to look at it. And are you going to stay around after the meeting to talk to people who have questions of you and want to look at the equipment?
Absolutely.
That'd be great. I have two board members who are leaving at 12:45 sharp, so we're going to move briskly. Leslie has 120 seconds because you've already had two really good presentations, so this one's short.
This is an update to where we are on our legislative review, so I'm just going to quickly get to the end of the novel and then go backwards, which is to let you know that we will be back in February with a report back on the consultation regarding our vision, goals, and objectives. We will be able to define for you in much more detail than is in this presentation around our engagement. We plan to take a very progressive approach with Judy Pfeiffer's help and her team around the engagement strategy. We will be reporting back on our research program and early findings, and of course we will be able to report to you, we hope, on the progress of the Provincial Growth Secretariat's growth plan, their legislative review, and how these two things will dovetail. So, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure, given the amount of time we have, I think
let's take questions.
Assuming everyone's read.
If I'm the mayor of Pickering and I have a point of view on all of this, how do I interact with you?
So we
I'm taking Mayor of Pickering just as a hypothetical.
Yes, we have suggested on slide 12 that we convene elected municipal leaders from around the GTHA and their officials to work with us to develop an engagement strategy, and ultimately the goal being an affirmation process for generating the plan.
And when will that, if Mayor Ryan were to ask Bruce, when I understand you're doing this review, when do I get brought into the process? What's the timing of that?
So I would hope by the fall we would have this sort of rolled out how we're going to begin to have that conversation. We'll start with us bilaterals with individual municipalities, and then we want to convene the on the basis of that, bring them together to begin to introduce the project and talk. We've already begun meeting with municipal officials. We just have not defined a mechanism for engaging with elected municipal officials.
But you'd expect to do so bilaterally
And
in the
a group,
fall,
and
then
in a group.
collectively later in the fall?
Through the whole process. This process goes till 2016.
Right.
So we want to have a kind of clear process and benchmarks that align with the study itself.
Any other questions to Leslie? Thank you very much, Leslie. Nick, Customer Service Committee Chair's report, please.
Yes, we had a lively and productive meeting yesterday. We received an update from GO's Customer Service Advisory Committee, chaired by our committee member Richard Coruscant, when they met in May. Members provided feedback on key customer service projects, including Presto, and an update on dispute resolution management. Up Express continues strong progress towards spring 2015 launch. Accomplishments include on-time construction progress on Pearson, Union, Bloor and Western stations, and vehicles manufactured in Japan have been shipped. The first 2 pilot cars received in Rochelle, Illinois, and currently undergoing fit-out and testing. And we had a review of the employee uniform prototypes that are under development. I won't comment on Presto, you just got a fulsome report, but we spent time understanding the rollout for TTC. And the Design Excellence, Metrolinx Design Excellence update, ably supported by our committee member Marion McKenna. The Design Review Panel began its official capacity in October 2013 with a focus on design excellence in architecture, urban design and landscape architecture, driven by excellence in consumer experience. Eglinton Crosstown LRT has explicitly identified design excellence principles as part of the project evaluation. And efforts are underway to develop a vendor of record list of architects and landscape architects qualified to assist with small, medium, and large projects. Work has begun on the design of the GTHA Transit Wayfinding, a universal passenger navigation network. And Union Station revitalization was reported on. The train shed atrium steel was completed in May. The York Concourse is anticipated for turnover to the City of Toronto for October. And Up Express structural steel has been finalized, trending towards our spring 2015 service start. And that's our customer service report.
Thank you very much, Nick. You led an excellent meeting of the committee yesterday, first class. Any questions to Nick? That brings us to the Vice Chairman, who's going to present the Metrolinx's annual report for 2013-2014. Stephen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yesterday afternoon, the Audit, Finance and Risk Management Committee met. We reviewed and recommended approval of the financial statements. We reviewed also the annual report. This is and going to recommend its approval. This is a joint effort by the Judy Pfeiffer and also Robert Siddle, our Director of Communications, and also Vice President of Finance and Audit. I think you'll see from the quality of our annual report over the years, it's fulsome in the amount of information it gives on Metrolinx's activities, very extensive, and they both should be congratulated for the extensive amount of work. We also met with the external auditors, had a full meeting with the external auditors, reviewing the financial statements, both with management and also in camera. The auditors are pleased with the responsiveness of management and their financial reporting. So I think we should all get a fair degree of comfort with this and the way we are reporting financially. With that, Mr. Chair, and in accordance with the requirements of the Metrolinx Act, I'd like to recommend board approval for the Metrolinx's 2013 annual report, which includes our financial statement. I'd be delighted to move that.
Thank you very much. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Mary Ann. And all of that was reviewed at the audit committee yesterday as
Absolutely.
well, right? So,
And also part of this, of the motion will be that the CEO will be directed pursuant to our act to present these reports to the minister, deputy ministers, or the ministers of finance and transportation.
and then it's up to them to table it, as I recall, in the legislature.
That's
at which
correct.
point it becomes, or is it already a public document?
It's on our website, I suppose, but it's not officially a public document until it's been tabled in the legislature.
And for the public, it's available in color on our website, but if you want a printed version, printed versions are available here, but in black and white. So
But it's
watching
still-
the pennies.
I think it's treated legally as a draft until it's tabled in the
That's
legislature.
correct. That's right. It'll
that's-
be available in draft
I
form.
think that's the distinction. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any objection? I see none. That's approved. That brings us, it's 12:41. We got 3.5 minutes left of full participation. We've got the quarterly reports. Going to take it by question. Any questions on, no questions on Union Pearson Express. So we had a presentation earlier. Presto, you've heard Robert already. Go Transit. Any questions to Greg? I see none on his report. We've heard from Leslie 3 times, I think. Any questions to Leslie on anything she didn't report on? Any questions to Judy on strategic communications? We didn't hear from Judy at all, so question to Judy would be legitimate. There are none, Judy. Great job.
Nice looking report, I thought.
Very nice looking report. Jack Collins on rapid transit implementation, which continues apace, as Bruce indicated in his presentation. Any questions to Jack? And then any questions to Robert Siddle on economic analysis and investment strategy, which is now part of Robert's responsibilities as the Chief Financial Officer. I see none to Robert. Is there any other business any member of the board wishes to bring before the board? I hope the board and the public will accept my apologies for us being 13 minutes overtime, and we stand adjourned. Thank you all very much for attending.
Thank you.
Usually, we're supposed to go down to lunch for, I thought.